I just don't understand. So, I'd like to put aside the geek for a moment, if I may, and to ask you guys to take part in a practical experiment. It's a multiplication problem, actually. So, imagine that the initial incident is your base horror factor, and every subsequent fact is a multiplier of that base. So, I want you guys to imagine that the first you hear about the tragedy at Sandy Hook Elementary this morning is simply that there was a shooting at an elementary school in Connecticut. And the first thing you think is that your father teaches at an elementary school in Connecticut. You freak out. You're horrified. You panic. You rush to a computer to try and figure out what's going on. And, this is the information age. It only takes a few clicks for your details to unfold. But you have but a moment to feel relieved that your father is okay, that this happened nowhere near where he works, before the scope of what actually happened hits you. 26 people dead. 26. 20 of them students, little kids between the ages of 5 and 10. And you feel guilty for that moment of relief that your world hasn't been shattered, because you suddenly realize how many people's worlds have been shattered this morning. And this wave of anguish washes over you, and your mind breaks trying to rationalize an irrational situation. And there you have your final product. Congratulations, universe, you have just shared my afternoon. You can't hear a story like this and not have your heart go out to the people that didn't go home that day and their families. I mean, when you think about having to go home to a house with one less person, and even the kids that did make it through that, I can't imagine. These are kids. These are people whose trauma shouldn't extend beyond losing a tooth. What do you say to the kid who comes home the day he watched his best friend get shot to death? And this is a school, so let me offer you a unique perspective. That of the school's staff and faculty. Now, I was born and raised in Stamford, Connecticut, about 40 miles from where this took place, and not to sound boastful, but I went to some pretty great schools with some pretty great teachers, and they always seemed to take a personal investment to ensure that you succeeded and were safe and were protected within the walls of their classrooms. They were your protectors in your home away from home. And these are people who have to go home with the horrible grief of having failed their charges. I don't understand how things like this continue to happen in a civilized society. These public massacres that leave us grieving and angry and confused. I don't understand how we as a society keep allowing this to happen. And just to address the elephant in the room, I'm not trying to make this a political thing. That's not why I'm here. That's not important right now. Do I personally think we need stricter gun control? Yes, but that's not important. That's only part of the issue. There is something deeply wrong with a society in which we go about our daily business so focused and sucked into our own little lives that we can't notice when someone among us needs help. Where whatever issues he suffers go unaddressed, without aid, and build until he develops the insane notion that his only respite is to walk into a building and gunned down 20 helpless kids and 6 of the people charged with their daily education and safety. This isn't just a political issue. It's not just a safety issue. It's not just a mental health issue. It's a societal issue. And it's an issue that can't go on. I mean, something has to change. We can't let the norm become this. That's just too horrifying for words. Anyway, I didn't come to gush, so I'll wrap this up. For those of you who do the social networking thing, I'm sure you've noticed how the day's posts are filled with mentions of the incident and condolences, and there was one in particular that I felt warranted sharing. So, a friend of mine left on his Facebook page, "Why kids? At what point does a mental illness become something darker? Things like this make it harder to treat strangers with respect and kindness rather than fear and mistrust. With all these boogeymen stacking up these days, sometimes it feels like it's safer to not make eye contact with anyone, ever. I worry that the day will come when people have to view everybody around them as a potential threat. And that would be much, much worse than the zombie apocalypse." Leave it to him to throw in that little bit of humor. I guess amidst all the crying and grief, a little laughter is what we needed right now, at least in part, and I wasn't much up to that task, so thank you, Bobby, for that. Anyway, that's it for me tonight, guys. I will be back at some point full of energy again and rejuvenated for the task of making you guys think and making you laugh. And in light of circumstances like this, it's something that we really need, and it is a task that I consider an honor and a privilege. So, I'll see you guys later.